This week on Houston Newsmakers, the Super Tuesday fallout. A couple of political veterans helped break down the impact of Tuesday's results in the Democratic and Republican primaries. We'll talk with new Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards to see how she's settling in and what goals and priorities she has for her at-large constituents. And after 18 years in prison, many of them on death row, Anthony Graves is working hard to make a difference. We'll talk about the latest efforts of the Anthony Graves Foundation and how you can help.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Good morning and welcome to Houston Newsmakers. The primaries are continuing this weekend and next week as more states select the candidates they believe will make the best next president. And we've had interesting local rates as well. Here to talk about the local and national story, State Senator Paul Bettencourt. Thank you for being here. A lot's been going on here. One of the most recent this past week has been Mitt Romney coming out, talking on behalf of, I'm not sure who, you can maybe tell me that, but against Donald Trump. What do you make of that? Well,
it's unprecedented, and for Romney to come out and say that the Trump is as phony as a degree from Trump University, that was really the big line in the speech. He's really trying to hit a thunderbolt right on the Trump candidacy. Now, he's speaking on behalf of the establishment because the establishment is really petrified of a Trump win. However, the problem with the speech was it was pretty good, but Romney is not the number one guy to give that speech, even though he ran 4 years ago. But when you lose and you run, it looks like sour grapes.
So who would be the person to give that speech? The candidates who have been in the race have been giving that speech, sort of, kind of.
Well, the real question is that you have to let the candidates sort it out. The problem is when you try to download into a race like this. See, even with Romney, one of Romney's problems is he just got Trump supported 12, and there's a clip already out where the Trump people actually preempted his speech, and Romney was like, great guy for economic issues, I want Donald, I love Donald, and then boom, 4 years later, Donald's a disaster. So you have to watch who your spokesperson is. It would have been the type of speech that you would look back at somebody that was successful, like a George W. Bush would have to make. You'd have to have somebody who won one. You can't have somebody come in who's lost saying, hey, this other guy is no good.
Well, let's talk about the race itself, the presidential race. So, you know, Ted Cruz won here and he won in Oklahoma. I think he got Alaska as well. So a chance for him to go ahead and at least say that he's got some wins under his belt. And he's been saying quite artfully that he's the only one who's been able to beat Donald Trump at this point, although Rubio got Minnesota as well. But that philosophy has not really translated to put a chink in the armor of what appears to be a nomination of Donald Trump.
Well, it's a Trump tsunami. Let me just tell you. You're looking at turnout levels that are off the scale. In Harris County, we had 329,000 people show up and vote in the Republican primary. The previous record was only 171,000. It's nearly double. Now, that's a Trump effect because he's bringing in new voters, but also there's a real fight for the nomination. And just like in 2008, we saw a spike when Hillary Clinton was up against President Obama. Now, to go to your point, what's going to happen is simply this. Until Rubio won one, he was really going to have a hard time justifying staying in. He won the Minnesota caucus, so that gives him a chance to compete, and we'll see whether or not he can carry his home state. Senator Cruz had a very good night. His campaign chairman, Dan Patrick, had a good night because for a while, those numbers had shrunk in the polls to where Senator Cruz was only carrying the state by a point or two. But that blew out to a 45 to 25, close to that, almost a 19-point win. So he had a good win in Texas. He won another state. He picked up Alaska. So we'll see. Like, he's got to pick up Louisiana this weekend, though, to keep that momentum going.
Let's talk about Donald Trump. I know that some of the latest polls I've seen indicated that in a head-to-head with Hillary Clinton, he loses. And so that may be a concern of, at least that's what people are talking about as one of the reasons why he shouldn't be the nominee. But then again, the people are speaking on behalf of what's going on in the Republican Party at this point, are they not?
Well, what's happening is that Donald Trump has tapped into national populism like no one else has in the past. And here's a key point, Khambrel. Whether you look at FDR when he started doing fireside chats on radio, or when you looked at Reagan, President Reagan doing the TV work he did, this is revolutionary because the news cycle used to be a week, and then it was 24 hours, and it was a couple hours, and now it's 24 seconds on a retweet.
And he takes advantage of that.
Sure, and Donald talks to 14 million people directly.
Yeah, on Twitter and Facebook.
Right.
And
so what's happening is the speech today, or speech that Romney had, should have been a speech that was, I don't think he's electable, but when you go into this, you start fighting Trump on, hey, he's as phony as Trump University, you're fighting in his wheelhouse because he can turn on that inside fastball and hit that ball out of the park.
So you think it's inevitable that he's going to be the nominee?
No, I think that there's a really good debate. What Senator Cruz has done is plant the flag of constitutional conservative and say, here I am, rally to me.
I want your forecast. I don't want you to waffle. I want you to get out there.
Now, the forecast is this. By the 15th of March, okay, we'll have, actually by the 22nd of March, we'll have 700 delegates selected. There's a winner-take-all primary in Arizona, but Governor Brewer is for Trump. If Kasich and Rubio cannot carry Ohio and Florida, pretty much it's over at that point in time. Senator Cruz is going to do well being the second choice and pick up a lot of delegates. But if you let the Donald take those winner-take-all states, you just can't catch up. He's got over 45% of the delegates right now. If he wins a sweep, which he had a very good night, even though I think Senator Cruz had a good night too. You can't just be second. You can't just pick off one state out of four. You have to win a majority going forward.
You know I could talk about this for an hour.
I know you could.
But we got to go to some local stuff here. How surprising was the upset of State Rep Debbie Riddle?
I'd already predicted earlier that it was going to be a runoff. It was a slight surprise that it was won by Valerie Swanson. But that shows you how strong the anti-incumbent movement is in the Republican Party. Representative Riddle, who I've known for a long time, I consider to be a friend, she had about 5 votes in the last legislative session that really galvanized social and economic conservatives in that race for Beverly Swanson. The real race to watch is the race on the east side of town. There's a runoff between Chairman Wayne Smith, and is that where you're headed? So I apologize for.
That's all right. That's
okay.
Good.
And against a newcomer, Briscoe Cain.
And he was elected in 2002 and had not had anybody running against him for a while, and now he's got this.
14 years later,
yeah.
He's got a tiger by the tail who's won on the first ballot with nearly 48% of the vote. So what Briscoe Cain represents is a conservative insurgency walking the district, and that's going to be pretty much the pattern in state house races from here on out.
How about Ron Reynolds? He's had some issues. He's still fighting an appeal. He's still appealing his conviction now, but yet he's in a runoff now, and then almost did not have to go into a runoff.
It was surprising to me that he almost won without a runoff, because it's not just a theoretical. There's real convictions involved in this at this point. He only got he got 48.5% of the vote. I would expect that the runoff will probably be a coin flip now, because once you get an incumbent into a runoff, very difficult for them to win, because that means majority of the folks have already voted against them statistically.
Interesting. I've got requests out to have both of them on this show next week.
That's a show I'm going to watch.
I want you to go ahead and
I'll watch that show, Khambrel.
Talk about Gene Green. Gene Green, huge win over Adrian Garcia. Here's a guy in a 77% Hispanic district and not able to win. Talking about Adrian Garcia.
Okay, as an observer, I had predicted that. I predicted actually a 60-40 win. Here's why. Gene Green is one of the toughest campaigners in both parties. Plus, he's really connected to his district. That television ad he ran, the best of the cycle. It did mention Washington. President Obama had talked about him doing real things for real people in his district. Really popular in the Hispanic community. He had support from Senator Sylvia Garcia and others. And so the 60% level that he nearly got, I actually predicted it, because there are some people that you should think twice about running against, and Adrian Garcia made a bad decision by running against the toughest guy on the Democratic side.
What kind of a future does he have, Adrian Garcia, politically?
He has really hurt his brand, because you resign from sheriff, you run for mayor, you end up third, and then you run around against a very popular guy. He's going to have to take a serious cool-off period and decide what else he can do for the future.
Senator Bettencourt, this has been fun. You know, I always love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khambrel.
And next time we'll have to get the whole hour, and we'll get a sponsor. Thank you.
Be happy to do it.
I appreciate it so much. Hey, just ahead, she's new to city council, but not new to fighting for the community. It seems like only yesterday, at-large position 4 city council member Amanda Edwards was running for office. Well, we're going to find out how quickly she's getting to work and on what. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues. And welcome back to Houston Newsmakers. I'm joined by at-large Houston City Council member Amanda Edwards, who was one of the 7 running for that position had twice as many votes as the nearest competitor, then won the runoff, now hard at work. How's it been?
It's been fantastic, and thank you for having me here this morning.
Oh, glad to have you here. I noticed that when you won that race, there was so much about you that indicated that you were ready for this job. I mean, what you had done throughout. When you say that's the case, that a lot of what's been going on before now has basically prepared you for this.
Absolutely, and it unintentionally so. I just amassed a lot of experience that is extremely relevant for the job at hand, and so my background in doing community-based revitalization work and nonprofit organizations like Project Row Houses, for example, also serving as a municipal finance lawyer, all have been just a few of the examples of things that have prepared me for the job and task at hand.
What is the difference now? You're at large, so that's different from the district DB, whatever.
Correct.
How is your role different in an at-large council seat as opposed to the district?
So you have 11 district council members presently, and then you have 5 at-large members. Those 5 at-large members are really tasked with the responsibility of representing all of the Houston community, and so that can make for a difficult time campaigning, but also it allows for you to concentrate on issues that are really citywide in nature. So, for example, the mayor has appointed me to serve as the vice chair of Budget and Fiscal Affairs, which obviously impacts all of the city of Houston, and having that ability to focus a little bit more on those types of endeavors is afforded to you when you are an at-large member. You also have an opportunity to work with and in concert with with your district council members as well, but you have the opportunity to really have more of a citywide focus as you serve your term.
How important is it to have relationships and partnerships on council as you are going through this process? I mean, we look at the process, we see everybody sitting up on the council there, but we have to know that there's some interaction going on behind the scenes. There got to be things where you're working together. How important is it to have those kind of relationships?
It's absolutely essential. You cannot do any of this by yourself. You'll find if you try to do that, you'll be a very frustrated individual with very few results to show for it. And that includes not just collaborating with your colleagues in terms of city council members, but also with the various folks in the departments within the administration. If you're seeking to get an initiative off of the ground, there are several players and stakeholders involved in those processes, and so it's your job as a city council member to figure out how to navigate and leverage those relationships, but also those opportunities so that you can really be effective.
I noticed that part of your background has been municipal finance.
That's right.
And as soon as you say municipal finance, that seems to be exactly what the city of Houston needs right now. Someone who really understands that. How challenging is that going to be? Right now, of course, the mayor made potholes a big deal to the beginning, and that's almost like the canary in the coal mine. When you see infrastructure falling apart, that kind of indicates some other things that are wrong. What is the challenge ahead as far as the finances of the city?
We have a number of substantial fiscal challenges our city is currently facing. Structurally, we are in a situation where we have a large amount of unfunded pension liability. So that's a big issue, but it's not just pensions alone. There are other pressures on our budget. In addition to that, you have the revenue cap, and that means basically based on a formula, we can't take in more revenue past a certain formulaic amount. So that creates another pressure. In addition, you've got sales tax that are declining. Sales taxes are continuing to decline as we now continue to see what's happening in our energy market.
So what kind of remedies are there when you have those things falling into place?
Sure.
What kind of remedies does the city have?
Well, you have to make sure you're effectively and efficiently utilizing the dollars you do have access to. So that's a starting point when you're going through your budgeting process, asking the hard questions about the connectivity between what the ask is for a particular department, for example, and what their function and objectives are as a department. Those are the questions you have to peel through and ask. In addition, but you also have to figure out ways to offset some of these challenges that we're facing. So in my during my term, I really want to focus on economic development opportunities. Where do we have some existing opportunities to really leverage more for economic revenue generation for the city? That's the question that I'm continuing to ask, and looking at interesting ways that we can partner with various industry areas, also that we can be more supportive instead of work against in terms of both from a community perspective as well as from a business perspective.
And that was the question I was going to ask about. What was your main priority? And you just answered that, being the economic engines that we can, is there some optimism that you're going to be able to kind of dig in and help develop some of those?
Absolutely. So we see that as, I see that as a two-prong approach, right? So you have the notion of economic development from within a neighborhood, and so you're dealing more so with the community itself, the people in that community. What resources do they have access to? What land is blighted or abandoned property that you can restore and get back on the tax rolls? That'll be beneficial to the entire city, but also particularly beneficial for those neighborhoods that might be resource deprived, lack the conveniences of a grocery store, for example, or places that people in the community can actually be employed. And so looking for opportunities to have partnerships in terms of the availability of quality, affordable housing, but also the availability of jobs and other mechanisms that people need in order to have thriving, robust communities. And then different and separate from that, you've got to look at it from a business perspective. Where can we provide additional supports to continue to generate more revenue for economic development for the city? So, for example, last night I got an opportunity to attend the J Labs opening, which is the Texas Medical Center's project in which they are bringing in new innovation to the city of Houston in the medical center in terms of commercialization of a lot of what they already have access to in terms of their medical facilities. Now you're going to see more companies like Johnson & Johnson coming in and looking at ways in which they can leverage the existing strengths of the medical center and then also create new opportunities like looking at med devices and biotech and the like. Well,
just listening to you, I'm just exhausted. All that you have going on. I mean, there's a lot going on. You clearly have your arms around it. I'm delighted you could come. Please say you'll come back from time to time, and we'll talk about updates and figure out what's going on. You can use this as a forum anytime you want.
Absolutely, but I will only come if I'm invited, Khambrel.
You got that invite. Thank you. Amanda Edwards, at large, position 4. Thank you so much. Good luck as you continue in your tenure here.
Thank you.
Imagine spending 18 years in prison, then being released because the evidence proves you didn't do it. What then? Anthony Graves is living that story, and there's much more to tell. The latest big step he's taking. That's next when Houston Newsmakers continues.
From KPRC Channel 2, this is Houston Newsmakers with Khambrel Marshall.
Anthony Graves is here this morning. I still think your story is amazing. It's inspiring. For those who don't know, convicted of killing 6 family members in Somerville, Texas, spent 18 years behind bars, 16 of them on death row.
12 and a half on death row.
12 and a half on death row, still 18 years behind bars. District attorney in that case was disbarred for withholding evidence and using false testimony. Your conviction overturned. I got to tell you, it would be very difficult for me not to be full of animosity toward a lot of people. You haven't exhibited that. How have you been able to do that?
Because God is good.
All the time.
All the time, God is good. Right? And I knew that, look, I really wanted my life back because the state had no right taking it from the beginning. And I knew that the only way I can get it back is I had to let go all the anger and the frustration at those doors when I walked out. And so I knew that, you know, if I really wanted to live, then I had to come out here and find a peaceful space to live in. And
since that time, you've turned your life in another direction. You actually are advocating on behalf of the inadequacies of the system. Is that a pretty good way to?
Yeah, and you know, the reason why is because, number one, this gives me my life back, right? And I feel like for 18 and a half years, 6,640 days I was behind those bars, I witnessed some of the worst inhumanity imaginable. And I knew that I had to be witnessing this so that I can come out and advocate against it because it didn't make any other sense to me. So it's why I come out and I've done it, and it's given me my life back.
This whole process, how has it left you? Has it scarred you in any way? I mean, how do you go past that? You're doing positive things. Are there still some things that are nightmares that kind of come to you from time to time?
Yeah, the nightmares are that we still have the same system that did this to me.
Oh, wow, okay.
That's the nightmare,
Okay.
you know, so this is why I'm out advocating the way I'm advocating is relentlessly, because the truth is that hasn't much changed from the same system that did this to me. So that keeps me up.
And now, the most recent thing is your foundation. First of all, I should say you started a foundation.
Yes.
The Anthony Graves Foundation.
Yes, sir.
And that is designed to do what?
It is designed to do several different things. It's number one, we have a program called HIP. HIP, Humane Investigation Project. This is where when guys are writing to me with claims of actual innocence, we actually do the work. We don't do it from behind the computer. We go into the field, we go out and we investigate, we talk to witnesses, and we build a case all the way up until litigation. Then we turn it over to attorneys that are doing work for us pro bono. And then we also have a Graves Community Clinic. And the reason why I started this clinic is because I know that, you know, prison population is overcrowded. And a lot of those guys, the medical assistance, it's overstretched. Right. So a lot of these guys are coming back into our communities with these high risk of infectious diseases, tuberculosis, you know, hepatitis, HIV, and they don't know. Right. Because they wasn't medically treated.
I want people to know about that. I want people to know about the foundation. You can get information about the foundation, the clinic, all of that. AnthonyGravesFoundation.org. Go to that website, and you're always looking for donors, right?
Yeah, because you know I've taken the money that the state give me, right, and I've invested back into the people that I left behind.
That's the information for you. We're going to have a Newsmakers Extra as well. I want you to be aware of that. Here on this, you can find more about Anthony, his foundation, and how you can help. In this week's Houston Newsmakers Extra, go to click2houston.com under the Newsmakers banner. On the news banner, click on Newsmakers. Within that story about this week's program, you'll find a link to the extra segment. We'll be back after this. Next week here, the Red, White, and Bike story. It's a grassroots effort to help the children of those wounded or killed while serving our country. You don't want to miss that. Very inspiring story. Please join me here again next week on Houston Newsmakers.